everybody, Ben for the Bonehead podcast, and welcome to Top 5 Friday. On a Friday, we get together and we have a look at the top 5 something, normally to do with Blood Bowl. This is my first top 5 of the year, and it's going to be a little bit different. I am looking at my 2025 hobby goals. In the next podcast, or the podcast after that, we're going to be looking at like hobby productivity and how to get stuck in. Ben's on a podcast this Sunday, the One World One Blood Bowl, doing some painting. It's the beginning of the year, right? It's the bit where you're like, how much weight am I going to lose? How sensible am I going to be with money? Do you know what? This is a hobby channel. What hobby goals are you going to achieve? So I wanted to put this video out there, not kind of hold myself to account, but like, this is what I'm aiming for. I think I'm being realistic. Your mileage may vary. And I really want to know what your hobby goals are for this year, because we got an opportunity to start this year out pretty well, and I'm very excited for all the stuff. The one thing we're going to be doing differently on this video is we're going to go from 1 to 5 instead of 5 down to 1, because my number 1 goal massively impacts the rest of them. So anyway, let's have a look at my top 5 hobby goals for 2025. Number 1, my primary hobby goal this year for 2025 is I'm going to paint 1,000 points a month. Now, in Blood Bowl world, what I mean is 1,000 TV, right? So 1 million gold pieces of Blood Bowl stuff a month. But the reason I said points is because Blood Bowl's not the only thing I want to be painting at the moment. Like, I love Blood Bowl far and beyond any other game, but sometimes it's fun to paint high elves. Sometimes it's fun to paint goblins with swords and axes, and sometimes it's fun to paint robots and tanks and spaceships. There's other stuff out there that I really enjoy painting, and that's my goal. Is every month 1,000 points or 1,000 TV. So I paint a whole Blood Bowl team. Tick. I've hit my achievement for the month. If I paint 1,000 points of OPR, boom, I'm there as well. So that's my goal. Breaking it down, I think it's actually really achievable. Now, Trips has flagged to me. He said, look, don't press yourself to do this every single month. He said, maybe just go for 10 months out of the year. So actually, I really like that. So my goal for the whole year is to paint 10,000 points of stuff. Most of that is going to be Blood Bowl teams, and I'm halfway through the next, the next team I need to paint for the Bonehead Championship that starts in February. So actually, I'm happy with that. I've got a clear goal with that. I've got stuck into that. It's right there so that when I get a bit of downtime, I know exactly what I'm working on. So I'm very confident that I'm going to finish at least 1,000 points. Like, my goal is to paint on Sunday while Ben's doing the One World One Blood Bowl stream. Like, I'm going to paint alongside. Team's halfway there. I reckon I can probably finish it off, and boom, I am half a month ahead of my goal. But having that quantifiable amount, I think, is a really solid start. So that's going to be my primary goal for the whole year, is paint around about 1,000 points a month and get 10,000 points of stuff painted by the end of the year. Probably mostly Blood Bowl. And I said at the beginning that these would be linked. My number 2 goal is to continue to learn how to use the airbrush. I got an airbrush and I've used it, but I don't think I've used it well. I don't think I've used it well at all. Like, I have airbrushed stuff and it doesn't look any different than if I just kind of like done a dry brush or used a rattle can. Like, I haven't got to grips with what the point of an airbrush is yet. I've started to. In the last sort of couple of weeks, I've been playing with stuff. I've been painting some OPR robots. I used green, because it's green, right? On the Bonehead Championship team, I did the airbrush stuff. I bought some airbrush paints from Army Painter. And I'm getting there. I've been watching a lot of videos recently, and also just like paying attention to what Ben does, Brush Tithe. He does a lot of airbrush work, so it's really cool to learn that. And the reason I want to do that is because, one, there is a time saving. So one thing I did was I painted up like 20 bases for this team, and I used the airbrush, and I used a couple of different gradients of grey, and I was able to do all 20 bases really quickly. And then obviously I slathered them in Agrax because that's the right thing to do. Gave me a little dry brush and they were done. And I was able to take care of that really quickly. So I was like, okay, I can see a bit of the benefit of the airbrush here for priming and that kind of stuff. I'm fine with that. I want to get that nice glow look, and I haven't remotely figured out how to do that. And this links into my number 1 goal of painting 1,000 points a month, is because I want to start using the airbrush to learn how to make that quicker because, you know, we've talked about it on the channel. We love doing the Blood Bowl stuff. I also want to do other games, but the difference between doing a Blood Bowl stream or a Blood Bowl recording is you're painting up 12 guys. If you're playing the Old World or doing some OPR or some Kings of War, you're painting like 100 guys. And I need to learn how to paint 100 guys really quickly because I can't always rely on Ben because he is very busy with commissions. And actually, do you know what? That's on me. Like, I want to learn how to paint fast and I want to make it look good enough for YouTube. And I think the airbrush is the crux of that. I've got one. I just need to keep trying it. Huge couple of painting projects this month for me as well. So I'll be using the airbrush for that. And fingers crossed, it will make my life better. So number 2 for me is to figure out the best way for me to use my airbrush. Number 3, and I'm very excited for that. 3 is the magic number. Shortly, in a few weeks, I will have my third Saturn II will be back home. Milton's got it at the moment, my big old printer. I've got 2 printers here. I'm waiting for the third. I've got the first week off in February. Like, we've got Beachhead, then I've got the week off after. And that week, I'm going to be printing the stadium for the championship. It's not going to be ready for the Bonehead Championship, but I don't care because actually, you know what? That's my window of opportunity. That's when I'm going to print it, and it will be there. Where that cliff is, that is where the pitch stands will be. So I'm not printing a whole stadium because you just get in the way of the cameras. I'm printing the back bit of the stadium with the stands. I started out already and it didn't quite work out. And I want to do that because we've got hundreds of the print to pitch models that you guys sent us, and I want to get them out there. So I don't think it's realistic for me to be able to get that done by the time we go live with the Bonehead Championship, just because I want that third printer because that means I can do it over the course of a few days. If I'm doing something over the course of a month, it becomes difficult from like a storage point of view. Whereas if this is my one project during this week, then I can smash it out. Like that week, I can print, clean, and I can make a really effective like push and get it built over the course of that week. What happens in my world is if I print a bit here, it gets cleaned and then it gets put over there and then it gets knocked or it gets forgotten about. And then what ends up happening is either gets damaged, it gets lost. I change my mind about it. This is the worst blooming thing. I'll be like, actually the scale's slightly off. So I started printing the Space Hulk stuff. The first stuff I did and then I did a different scale because I was like, okay, is this too big? Is this too small? You know what? The best way is me get that third printer on the go. And then I can print it all in one big go. I don't think it's going to take that long, probably 2-3 days with 2 prints of an S2 a day with 3 printers. So what's that? I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I got space there for like 10, 12 prints worth. So it's going to be quite a bit of resin, but I don't care. We'll get it cleaned, we'll get it built, we'll get it drying, we'll get it set, and then that will kind of be linking in with everything else, like linking in with the airbrush, learning how to use the airbrush. It's going to be a case of like, boom, I can get it out there, I can airbrush all the bits and just have it there, and then we can get the cool print to pitch models out, and then we can start building up the crowd, which I think is going to be really cool. So I don't know if I'm going to be able to get it done before we start the championship, because we're starting the championship the week after Beachhead. So we come back from Beachhead, we have an on-off week where either I stream or we do a different game or something like that. We won't be live streaming. We'll have a week off. There's a chance that I can actually get it done in that week, ready for week 1 of the Bonehead Championship. That would be awesome. So yes, my goal number 3 is get the stadium built. Number 4 for me is, it's a bit of a mixed goal and involves other people, but by the end of this year, I want, you can see the shelves in the back here, like that's where the teams go. I want to spend this year working with the guys, you know, Ben, Milton, Warhammer, Craig, like I want to have access to every team by the end of this year. I am confident that we're going to need them as we move forward. So there's what, 29, 30 teams in Blood Bowl at the moment. I expect Games Workshop some way over the next couple of years to round that out to 32, just so that we can get that full NFL experience. And I want to have them all ready to go so that whatever happens, we can start rotating more teams in, whether it's Bonehead Championships, whether it's match play. I just want to be able to go, which teams have we got? Any of them. Like, so that we can start leaning on like the patrons and the supporters to just be like, cool, we've got an off week match play. What team do you want to see? And we can just pluck it off the shelf. But more importantly than that, and this is like one of those stretch goals that I really want. And we've started this with 7 Super Series this time around. I want to have every team have a history. I want every team to have a series of players that develop and grow over time that we can rotate in and out, because that's what Blood Bowl's all about. And what you'll find is that when we do the Bonehead Championship or the 7 Super Series, there are specific players, specific positionals in a team and parts of a team that really kind of accentuate what that team does. You've got the gutter runners, you've got the goblins, you've got the yeti. Like there's these key characters that form a part of that team that are really important. They start building up these personalities, they start getting skills, and they start being identities and brands for them. And my dream, get the Bonehead Championship 11s running, we find a way to do 7s in between or alongside so that we can build up the teams that are not playing 11s, that haven't got a background yet, and we can start skilling them up like we're doing with 7 Super Series this time round, so that when we introduce them into 11s, there's history there. And also it means that you guys can kind of go back and watch the 7s games and see which, you know, we've got some players that are coming up in the 7s series now that are going to be important when they come into 11s. And that's just really cool. So yes, my goal number 4 is by the end of the year to have every team in Blood Bowl available and on that back shelf. Number 5, it fits in with goal 1, it fits in with goal 2, and it's not the 5th most important one, but in March we're going to be playing some Necromunda. We're going to watch a hockey game, and then we're going to play some Necromunda the day after. It's like a little hobby weekend, a little mini like Bonehead celebration for Ben, who's getting married this year, and that's kind of our weekend to do hobby stuff. And part of that is we're actually going to sit down and play a few games of Necromunda. So my hobby goal number 5 is quite an early one in the year, and this is the one that I think ties in nicely with the airbrush stuff and with painting 1,000 points worth of stuff a month, is get my Necromunda team painted and ready to go, ready for our Necromunda session in March. Whether that means, like, what we want to do is we want to paint up stuff, we want to play, and then we want to go, do we like this enough to rotate it into the way we film things? Is Necromunda going to be a game that we really love, and we want to play a game of Necromunda every month and just have that fun bit? I don't know. But my goal is I want to have my Spirers painted, whether I go with Spirers or whether I go with the police dudes. I think it's going to be Spirers, right? That's going to be my goal number 5, is get my Necromunda team ready so that we can play. Just so, you know what it's like. You're playing in League, doesn't matter so much if your team's painted. When you go to a tournament, it really matters. And this is one of those moments where actually I've got an event, I've got a purpose to put in the hobby time to do this. I've got a clear goal. I'm going to focus on making sure that that happens. All right, so those are my top 5 hobby goals for 2025. There's a lot buzzing around in my head, but I'm trying really hard to just keep it down a little bit. So I'm going to paint 1,000 points of stuff every month. I'm going to use my airbrush more. I'm going to get the stadium done so that we've got the crowd there ready to roll. I'm going to focus on the strategy across the year to collate all the Blood Bowl teams so by Christmas we've got access to all the teams in Blood Bowl ready to go. That's a big goal. I don't even know how many teams we've got, and that's really interesting when we come to plan a season, because we're like, right, we want some Adge, we want some Bash, like who hasn't been rotated in, and we're like, all right, we don't have that team, or we've all got that team but it's all half painted, right? Who can pick that up? I want to make sure by the end of the year, hey, if it's earlier, that we've got access to them all, and then I want to get that Necromunda team sorted. Those are my goals right now. It's going to change. The one thing I am committed to is 1,000 points a month. We'll talk about that on the podcast in a couple of weeks time, like hobby productivity and how I'm going to make that happen. And I've made some changes in my life and just the way I organize things, inspired by trips, actually, to be like, right, what am I working on? Let's clear the rest. Let's get rid of the fog, make it as easy as possible for me to grab what I'm working on. Cool, I've got an hour, fantastic. Do you know what? I'm going to paint the boots of this team. I'm going to paint the gold on this team. Just do it in stages. Just flip and paint it is kind of my angle this year. And I'm very happy with how I'm starting. So let me know in the comments below what your hobby goals are for 2025, because this is a great start. and I'm genuinely excited for what we're all going to be doing this year. So that's really, really, really cool. Anyway, I'm going to wrap up. We'll be back soon with more Blood Bowl content. Happy blocking. Happy hobbying.